Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. On today's show, Kyle Bauer visits with Jeff Seim to talk about his work with Kansas wildlife parks and tourism and private land. Up next is this week's Kansas Soybean update. Then Kyle Bauer talks with Barth Crouch from the Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition about the coalition and the education it provides. Then it's this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update, and we'll end with Plain Talk featuring Kyle and Duane. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Up first today, Kyle Bauer visits with Jeff Seim about how Kansas wildlife parks and tourism work together with private landowners.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer visiting with Jeff Seim. Jeff works for it's a really long name, so I'm going to read it off your shirt, okay? I just call you Wildlife and Parks, but yeah. Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. He's in the Wildlife Division, and he's a wildlife biologist in southwest Kansas. Now, in northeast Kansas, a lot of times that's involved with state-managed ground, but in your area of the state, not so much.
No, that's true. As far as how the state goes, we have extremely little public land in the west. Just a handful, maybe like around Clark, which is actually a state fishing lake. But after that, it's pretty much all private owned.
So you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to that area.
Okay, so I'm from central Nebraska originally, and then I went to Fort Hays State for schooling. And then after that, I temped for the Department of Wildlife and Parks and Ecological Services for 2 summers. And then I got on full-time there out of Dodge after that.
So dealing with private landowners, your tack and track has to be different on how you get that accomplished.
That's true, because as opposed to public land projects, if we're doing something to enhance wildlife, I can't just jump on the state tractor and go do it. I have to work through the private landowner, and it's going to be a lot at his discretion too, or their discretion, because that rancher, if they're not interested in a certain practice, then it's simply not going to happen. So it's a little bit more, as we say, sitting down at the kitchen table kind of conversations to talk things over and get a feel for what people would be interested in.
I assume those folks call you, though. They have an interest when you show up. They're wanting to accomplish something.
Yes, they do. A lot of times they'll just have a question randomly. They'll call us and say, hey, what can I plant to enhance pheasant habitat? And then when the conversation gets rolling, there's a lot more options out there and a lot more potential programs that they can take advantage of to meet those needs or those desires of theirs for the wildlife.
Now, when you say programs they can participate in, is there actually some dollars that are available to private landowners?
There is. Actually, I'll move my sunglasses. Our Habitat First program is our state program specifically for habitat improvement for wildlife. And there is cost share available there, along with some labor sharing that can go on. And it can do anything that the landowner's interested in. It can be cedar removal or forb establishment, native grass establishment, cover crops, tree hinging for covey cover, planting of trees and shrubs for covey cover, or areas for deer to bed down in. We have a worksheet that all the state public lands or private lands biologists would have, and there's 18 or 20 practices.
So I assume if people want to try to work with you, the best thing would be to either call the state office or to look at the website.
That's correct. So our state offices are spread out across the state. So in the western part of the state, Hays has an office, and then Dodge are our big offices. And if you're looking to do things in the west, those would be the 2 places to call. And then our staff there would be able to get you into contact with the biologist that would be in charge of your local area specifically.
Visiting with Jeff Seim. He's a wildlife biologist with Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Be sure to come back after these messages for this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Davey Stevens is joining us. He is a Kentucky soybean producer and serves as Vice President of the American Soybean Association. And Davey, one of the underlying things that's always talked about is the infrastructure that we see and how much work needs to be done, but we have seen some progress slowly coming to getting some of the work on the infrastructure done.
Yes, we've got to maintain our infrastructure. That's truly what gives us a clear advantage to our southern neighbors, and speaking to Brazil and Argentina. We've got an aging infrastructure, and so we've got to get that process moving forward, and from roads, rail, to the waters, and we've got to make sure we keep that in place.
Because of the fact that if something like that is delayed or something like that breaks down, the potential of the damage that it could cause to not only the soybean industry but to many industries.
We see more and more bridges failing, outdated, being shut down. Rail has its own problems too, but then we also see with our water what's money needs to be kept into the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, but also dredging, because our infrastructure and our water, our locks and dams are old, and sometimes if we don't keep the lower part of the Mississippi dredged and around these ports, we can't load out with that river access.
Do you talk much to the members of Congress about looking at getting more funding for the repairs of infrastructure?
Yes, we've told them we would like to see $10 billion allocated to that, and that way we could make some definite projects, not just be delayed, especially when you go to your locks and dams. You see a lot of delays, and then they have to reappropriate the money. But if we could put money there, they could buy products, get it done, get it on site, and finish the project in a more timely manner.
Because so much of that is long-term in fixing some of these things that are in need of repair.
There's a lot of short-term that needs repair. There's a lot of long-term that needs put into place to make sure it's going to be there for the longevity of what we need to do with taking our product to the export markets.
Because it still goes to the ability to move that U.S. product, U.S. soy product, be it domestically or internationally, is so much more important.
Oh, it is. It's a key player. I mean, when you look at the nation as a whole, there's a lot of commerce that goes on those three, and so we've got to keep it viable for us as soy farmers, but also for America as a whole with the commerce we produce and goes across this nation.
Davey, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for letting our voice be heard and telling our story of agriculture.
Davey Stevens, who is a Kentucky soybean producer and Vice President of the American Soybean Association, has been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us after the break for more with Kyle Bauer as he visits with Barth Crouch.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for that grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer and work with you.
Kim Mandering with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now we learn about the Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition with Kyle Bauer and Barth Crouch.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer, visiting with Barth Crouch. He is the coordinator for the Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition. Barth, tell us about the coalition and what they do.
We are an educational nonprofit that gets a lot of assistance from the National Resource Conservation Service and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And sometimes I say we launder money for them, but actually we try to educate ranchers on how to do it long term so that you'll always be there, you'll always have money to operate with, and your grasslands will endure at the best possible shape.
And, of course, Kansas is tremendously varied in its grassland, so you move schools around.
Yes, we do. We try to have 2 a year in August, and we try to stick to the mixed grass and short grass country farther west, or we're in the Flint Hills with the tall grass prairie. And recently, we've been at Scott Lake doing the mixed and short grass school for about 8-9 years. I think we've saturated the ranchers that are interested out there. Because we were really pushing people, almost paying them to come. And now we're here at Ringneck Ranch in north central Kansas, more of the Smoky Hills, mixed grass country. And we're going to see if we can attract some folks here. I know we do have some students coming from the Red Hills, the Gypsum Hills, down in the south central. And I think we'll see how this goes for a few years. In the past, we've been in many different places. We were at Rock Springs for a while. We were at a couple of camps in the tall grass. Now we're at Camp Wood YMCA near Elmdale. And we've been several places in western Kansas, all the way from near Great Bend to out at Scott City. So we keep moving around trying to make it easy for the ranchers to come, and easy to talk about the different types of grasslands and precipitation regimes we have across the state.
Certainly having this in August, your weather conditions and your land conditions and your grass conditions vary greatly.
Oh, it's amazing. Some years, a couple of years ago in the Flint Hills, you would normally expect to see all this lush, beautiful grass, and for plant identification, which is one of the things we teach, because if you know your plants, you know what you should be doing with the land. And at that time, we had no green, nothing. It was all dried specimens, and a lot of them were from the year before when it had rained. And so people were looking at sticks for our plant ID challenge at the end of the school. We even had to hang pictures along the trail so that people could look at them and cover up the names so they wouldn't have an easy guess. But and the last 2 or 3 years, we've had amazing stuff in August. You expect 100, and the last 3 years, we've maybe had 90 at any of the schools. And it rains like this time. It rained half an inch last night, and it rained 3 inches a couple of weeks ago. So it looks great here, and some of the folks coming here are going, it's going to be green, and they're shocked to see green in August.
Well, I am as well. Really quickly, for folks that haven't attended your schools but want to know more about the coalition, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Well, there's 2 ways that are easy. If you're at all friendly with your computer or your phone, We have a Facebook page that tries to keep up, and we push it a lot on that. And it's just Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition. And then there's another one out there we couldn't fix. Don't go to that one. But Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition is what will get you the one that's current and working. And then our website is kglc.org, and everything's on there that you need to know.
We're visiting with Barth Crouch. He is a coordinator for the Kansas Grazing Lands Coalition. This is Kyle Bauer reporting.
Thanks, Kyle. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
With nearly 100 years of broadcasting excellence, Ren Radio is now live on the internet playing hit songs of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Join Jack Diamond, Matt Collins, Les Glenn, Frankie C., Antonio Barber, Wings Callahan, and the real Don Steele for some of the best music ever recorded. Hear it at rendigitalmedia.com or get the Ren Oldies Radio app in Play Store or App Store. And tell Alexa, good times and great oldies on Ren Internet Radio.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply. No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
About 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulder sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better and didn't get better. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over, and it just kept getting better and better. And within 6 weeks, I was back digging post holes and doing the other hard work that I'd been doing before the accident. And I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau update.
My name is Chelsea Champlin, and my husband and I are from Chautauqua County, where we're involved on the county board, as well as we are both serving as the Kansas 4th District representatives on the Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee. One of the main things that we do is we help put on the conference in February that it just helps engage and bring, get the younger generation involved. Something new that we're starting to implement in recent years is reaching out to more of like the next generation of Farm Bureau, the FFA and 4-H members, trying to do things through the FFA discussion meet and just ways that we can engage those, especially the 18-year-olds that can be in Farm Bureau, get them excited about leaving their 4-H and FFA programs and then joining into Farm Bureau, which can provide a lot of the same opportunities and utilize the skills that they've learned in those other organizations. Policy and politics in general is like a very daunting, somewhat overwhelming word or thing to think about, I think. And in Farm Bureau, it breaks it down and it makes you realize how you do have a voice and how your opinion, you might feel like it's small or insignificant, but when you join with Farm Bureau in the organization, you have a big and powerful voice. And so to me, it's really just made politics and policy less intimidating. And so that's what I like about it is just it gives me an opportunity to learn and know what's going on and just another resource versus just what you see on the news or on the internet or something like that.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
Tarwater Farm and Home is a 40-year-old local family-owned business. Clothing for work and play, seeds and feeds, boots, toys for the kids, and tools you'll need for around the house and farm. And a service department to keep them in top running order. It's a big store, so take some time to see what they have for your farm and home. Tarwater's everyday pricing is like others' sale prices. When you need it, they've got it. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
Kim Mandarin with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Duane are up to on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with the man whose wife wakes up grumpy sometimes. Other times she just lets him sleep, Duane Taves. Yeah, you thought that was going to take a bad turn, didn't you?
And it still did.
And you know what? Whew,
it was a different
I was
turn.
careful how I said that. Yeah. I know your wife.
Yeah.
She's feisty.
We have to set a number of alarms for me in the morning. They're all on her side of the bed.
So then the final alarm is she reaches over and whacks you.
Yeah, it's either that or that's the last one. The next going off at 7 o'clock.
You know, my dad had a great way to make that work.
How was that?
If my mom would call up the stairway, hey, time to wake up, okay? And then if my dad had to call up 3 minutes later, he came with a glass of water. And you know what? I only remember once.
He only had one glass of water that he had to toss.
Well, but I also, when I'd hear those heavy steps coming up the steps, it was like, I ain't waiting for the water.
I'm up. Your fact or fiction question of the day, Kyle Bauer. The regulation golf ball has 336 dimples.
Fiction.
It's true.
Oh, I thought it was like 278.
336.
I must have had old golf balls.
Yeah, the old ones.
Old ones.
The new tech, they're much better.
Yeah.
Interesting golf balls and the number of dimples that you can get on a not very big space.
Yeah.
336 is a lot.
It is.
And some of them that I have used, and all the dimples aren't the same size.
Really?
There's like a pattern to it.
Really? And that's regulation.
I bought them at a store. I'm assuming
how big
they're legal.
were they?
No, they were not.
They
weren't
not?
the size of a grapefruit. No,
Yeah, and it wasn't like made of plastic where you like use the wiffle thing.
Yeah, no. These were legitimate on the course.
I thought they all had to be exactly the same.
The dimple size.
I thought that was part. Well, you told me. I mean, it has to be that many. So how can they be different sizes?
Well, it just says they have to have 336. You got to have one great big one on one side,
and then all the
335 little bitty ones.
Well,
wouldn't fly straight if you did that, but
well, so why'd yours fly straight if it had?
Have you seen my golf ball?
It doesn't.
My
That's
ball
your problem.
never flies straight.
Oh my gosh, we have finally solved your problem.
Yeah, physics has proven out the reason why my ball doesn't fly straight on the golf course.
You said you've had those. You haven't had those regularly.
I don't know. I didn't look at them that often. I just thought it was interesting one day when I picked one up and noticed that they weren't
up out of the rough when you were looking for your ball.
No, I didn't.
Could it have been a 1927 model ball?
It was brand shiny new. I pulled it out of my golf bag.
Huh.
And it had like a little one inside of 4 bigger ones, and so it created like a pattern. I suppose it was the box. I'm sure said something wonderful like, "Fix your slice with these balls." Or you'll never hook again if you use whatever.
Yeah, you try that once. I personally have tried all those things.
And it really didn't change much, did it? That's why everybody, if you look at my golf clubs, everybody looks at them and they're like, holy cow, these got to be like 20 years old. And I'm like, yeah, so? And they're like, you think you ought to get some new ones? And I'm like, have you seen my golf game? I don't think it's the club's fault. It might have a lot more to do with the guy swinging it.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.